So guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we have a super popular shoe from New Balance, only with this version, they've made a lot of changes. Guys, today I am reviewing the new 880 version 15. Let's get into it. Before we get started, I do just want to say that this video is in partnership with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Now, Roadrunner Sports was good enough to send me this pair of their 880 version 15 for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say, they don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the New Balance 880 version 15 from Roadrunner Sports for $140. And that price is probably the most competitive price point out there. And yeah, you're going to be able to get shoes for less money, especially if you're shopping last year's models. But that $140 price point, to me at least, strikes a balance between affordability and that level when we're getting like brand new premium running shoes. And of course, at that price point, there's a lot of competition. But we'll look at the competition in just a second. For now though, the 880 version 15 has 40.5 in the heel, 34.5 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. Now, there's a couple things about that information. With version 15, New Balance has increased the stack height. Specifically, we've increased it by 3mm in the heel, 5mm in the forefoot, and the drop has been reduced by 2mm. So last year, version 14, the 880 had an 8mm drop. A couple of years ago, the 880 had a 10mm drop. So what this tells me is that New Balance is doing their research. They have possibly found out that people like higher stack heights and a slightly lower drop. What are your thoughts? Now, up until this year, I would have classed the 880 as being a mid-cushion daily trainer. But now with the introduction of an over 40mm of stack height in the heel, this is square in that max cushion category. Or is it? Well, yes, it is. But there's also something about the 880 that doesn't make it feel like a max cushion shoe the way some others do. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Now, New Balance claims that in a US men's size 9, the 880 version 15 will tip the scale at 8.4 ounces or 238 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12.5, the 880 V15 tips the scale at 12.3 ounces or 348 grams. Oh, and before we do talk about some of the comparables, I do just want to say that I think New Balance has really nailed the design. And I do recognize that it is just a daily trainer, and oftentimes daily trainers can be a little boring, but I do like how this looks. And if I'm honest, I can't put my finger on exactly what it is that I like about this shoe, but I do like it. I think it looks pretty sharp. So if you were in the market for the 880 V15, you're probably going to be looking at something like the Adidas Supernova Rise 2, and Supernova Rise 2 is also $140. It has a 36-26 stack for a 10mm drop, and it weighs in at 323 grams. So that's just 25 grams less than the 880 V15. Next up, I think you should also consider the Nike Pegasus 41. Again, the Pegasus 41 only costs $140. We have 37-27 for a 10mm drop, and in my size, the Peg 41 tips the scale at 347 grams. So it's only 1 gram less than the 880 V15. Another classic daily trainer is the Brooks Ghost. This is the Brooks Ghost 16, and you can pick this up again for $140. Now, the Ghost 16 has 35.5 in the heel, 23.5 in the forefoot for a 12mm drop, and in my size tips the scale at 331 grams. So again, just a little lighter than the 880 V15. But those have all been some pretty big drops, and if you're looking at the 880 V15, you probably like that 6mm drop. So I think we should also compare it to the Ultra Experience Flow. Now, the Ultra Experience Flow is also $140, and the Flow has 32 in the heel, 28 in the forefoot for a 4mm drop. Oh, and the Experience Flow is the lightest of all the competition, coming in my size in 293 grams. But remember, it's a lot less of a shoe. Got a lot less stack height and only that 4mm drop. Right. But if you are still looking at the 880, then you probably like the sound of that max cushion, that plus 40mm in the heel, and none of those competitors that I just showed you have that much stack. So let's move on to the materials. And if we look at the heel collar, we can see it's just like a daily trainer. We've got a lot of padding around the heel collar. I don't think New Balance has over-engineered this too much. It seems like just the right amount to give us a good grip around our ankle while making it very comfortable. And yes, I can confirm the 880 version 15 had a great step-in feel. As you would probably expect, we have a solid heel counter. I mean, it's very rigid. I didn't experience any heel slip in this shoe, but if you do tend to get heel slip in daily trainers, then we do have this extra lace hole in case you wanted to do that heel lock lacing method. The upper is a structured engineered mesh. We've just got different weave patterns across the upper, which I assume that's what they mean when they say structured. It is giving a little structure to the upper. And as far as overlays, yeah, we just got the branding on the lateral and medial side. There is a fairly rigid underlay coming around the toe bumper, which also helps keep that upper off your feet, and just some individual overlays surrounding each of the eyelets. The laces work. I mean, by working, they didn't come untied once, which is exactly what I look for in laces. They are just flat linguine shape, they lay flat, they look good. Yeah, we can't really ask for more than that. Now, if we come down to the midsole, New Balance is using their Fresh Foam X midsole foam, right? You've seen Fresh Foam X in a lot of shoes, but all Fresh Foam X foams are not created equal. They can be formulated at different durometer values to give different shoes a different feel. And by feel, I mean ride. And for me, at least, in my experience, the Fresh Foam X in the 880 version 15 is fairly firm. Now, I certainly wouldn't say it's too firm. I think this is an extremely comfortable shoe, and I did take it out the box and then run 20 miles immediately in it, and I had no problems whatsoever. So it's got comfort. However, it is a firm comfort. And if you like a very soft or squishy ride, then you might want to look elsewhere from the 880. But if you are looking for a daily trainer and you like that firmer feel underfoot, and I gotta tell you, a lot of people do. I mean, I want to say myself included, because when I think about it, I know I prefer a slightly firmer foam than something that's super plush. And yet when I think about what feels good on my foot when I'm just walking around, I want something really plush. But with running, that's not always the case. So yeah, if you're not a fan of a super plush shoe where you sink into that midsole foam, then the 880 is definitely worth considering. I was so excited to tell you about that midsole foam, I skipped the tongue. And really the only thing to say is that it is gusseted. It's on the skinnier side of padded as far as daily trainers go. It's definitely padded enough, which means I didn't have any lace bite across the top of my foot, and it was very comfortable when I put my foot in. There are no lace loops on the front of the tongue, but again, it's gusseted. The tongue just isn't able to move side to side once your foot is inside. Now, if we come down to the outsole, you can see we have a good amount of outsole rubber, and I mean it doesn't look very much when you're looking at it right here. We have this big exposed midsole here in the center, but the rubber is actually fairly thick. And as I look at here on the back, yeah, there is actually a lot of rubber here on the back. I can't actually say how much it is. It looks like maybe 4 millimeters. I mean, it's pretty thick. It's going to last a while. And again, up here on the forefoot, and just in my testing period, I think before I sat down to make this video, I have about 55 kilometers in this shoe. And yeah, I'm really not seeing any wear up on the forefoot. And more surprisingly, I'm not seeing any wear on the back. So that's a good thing. You know, now that I notice it, I am seeing just a slight bit of wear here on this exposed Fresh Foam X here in the middle, but really that's not going to make any difference to the life of the shoe. I think that is just where I land around here and then roll forward. Speaking of rolling forward, the rocker on the 880 v15 is actually pretty nice. And no, this isn't the lightest shoe that you're ever going to run in, but I never want anyone to judge a shoe by its weight, because depending on how a shoe is made can make it feel lighter than it really is. And I think the 880 version 15 is one of those shoes. And if I do the rock test just here on the table, yeah, you can see that shoe is rocking fairly well when I just drop it. And that rocker profile is definitely noticed when you're out on the run. And also, because of the rocker, it makes the fact that this shoe is fairly rigid less noticeable. In fact, if you were to just pick up this shoe and then try and bend it and you realize how stiff it is, you might think it wouldn't be a very smooth ride. But because of that rocker, it is incredibly smooth. Now again, firm, but still smooth. The two are not mutually exclusive. Now, as far as my experience running in this shoe, I've got to say, I didn't do any speed work in this shoe, but for me, when I pick up a shoe like the 880, I am just going out there for something easy, something long, you know, those bread and butter miles. The 880 version 15 is a shoe that I would put on every day. And also, I mean, I think because of the looks, and I know looks are very subjective, but because of the looks, I think this would make a great lifestyle shoe too. And I hate to pigeonhole it for newer runners because I'm certainly not doing that. But if you wanted one pair of shoes to be an actual good pair of running shoes, but still take them and wear them when you're out and about town, I think the 880 v15 could be an option for that too. Oh, also, the 880 v15 is a neutral running shoe, but because of several factors, we have a lot of inherent stability. So we do have a fairly wide base. I think just looking at it, we've got a fairly wide heel, but the heel isn't clunky in the slightest. Again, the shoe is very smooth. It doesn't feel like when you're running that the shoe is getting in the way of itself. And because of the firmness of the Fresh Foam X in the 880 version 15, you never feel like you're on a wobbly platform. Like, even though we've got over 40 millimeters in the heel, that firmness makes you feel very connected to the ground, very stable. So while it doesn't have specific stability elements, it still provides a very stable ride. Oh, and just back to sizing, if you've seen any of my videos in the past, then you may know that in New Balance, I generally drop down half a size. So I'm wearing a US men's size 12.5, and that's just because for my feet, I tend to find that New Balance has a lot of volume in the upper, and by dropping half a size down, I get just a little bit less volume, and the shoe fits well all around. That was exactly the same in the 880 version 15, but I would say that the 880 version 15 range fits true to size. So if you have running any other New Balance shoes, or you have a slightly wider foot or higher volume foot, just stick with your normal size. You'll be good to go. I also do just want to mention that the forefoot width is not as wide as some other New Balance shoes. There is a little bit of tapering in here, and sometimes I did feel my little toe pressing against the outside of the shoe. It's not a big deal, didn't put me off, it was just noticeable. But luckily, New Balance makes the 880 in a bunch of widths, so you've pretty much got your pick of the mix. So now I want to hear from you. First of all, I want to know, have you ever run in any version of the 880s, like over the last 15 years? And secondly, I want to know if you prefer a firmer or a softer, more cushion, more marshmallowy ride. Drop a comment and let me know. But for now, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the New Balance 880 version 15. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.